Hey guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. Today we are finally testing out the new Natasha Denona I Need a Nude eyeshadow palette. So before we get into it, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel before you leave. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy, and let's get into it. Okay, so I feel like I'm probably the very last person to get their palette in, but that's okay. So this is the new I Need a Nude palette from Natasha Denona. I did have to order off her website. I am Canadian, so I wasn't able to get the early launch from Sephora. Nevertheless, she is here. So this is what the palette looks like. This retails for $69 US or 87 Canadian. This has a 24-month shelf life and is made in Italy. The box is that soft touch matte that I absolutely love. Opening up the palette, this is what she looks like. So this is the packaging, very nude packaging. So very fitting. It also does have this raised plastic on the top, so much like the retro glam. Same kind of design. Looks beautiful. We have the typical holes in the back, and this is also that soft touch as well. Let's open up the palette, and it is so beautiful. This is a gorgeous palette. This is like if I were an eyeshadow palette, this is what I would look like. This is so perfect. This is predominantly, I would say, cool toned with some warmer shades in here as well. Very pretty. This is another one that I feel like the promo photos really didn't give the best idea of what this palette would look like, and I find seeing it in person, not only is it prettier, but I feel better knowing exactly what it's supposed to look like. So another thing that's exciting about this palette is she does have a new formula in here as well. She did include some of her sparkling foiled formulas, but she also included a new sparkling wet effect formula. So very exciting. All right, so I just did some swatches really quickly. We know this is not my strong point, but I will say the mattes did not swatch well, but that doesn't really matter as long as they perform well on the eyes. But first we have Stone, which is a matte. Then we have Whisper, which is a metallic, and this shade is absolutely stunning. I have mentioned before that the Blaze Nude shade from Mini Biba is probably one of my favorite eyeshadow shades of all time, and I can see this one really competing with it. I think that shade is so beautiful. There's just something about that very light metallic that I just think is gorgeous. Then we have Ella, which is a sparkling foil. Then we have Vague, which you can see really didn't swatch well, and this is one of the warmer shades in the palette. Then we have Travertine, which is a metallic. Then we have Delilah, which is one of the first sparkling wet effect formulas in her palette. So this is a completely new formula, and this one definitely did go a lot farther than some of the others. It is definitely very sparkly, definitely has that wet effect. It looks very beautiful. Then we have Silhouette, which is like a chocolatey brown matte. Then we have Muse, which is a sparkling foil. This one is just so sparkly. It's so beautiful. Then we have the shade Fair, which would be very close to my skin tone, and it's just a matte. We have Filigree, which is a sparkling foiled. Then there is Wit, which is a matte. Then there is Sheen, which is a sparkling wet effect. So beautiful. I think I'm really going to like that wet effect. Then we have Tender, which is another matte. Mesh is another matte, and then we have Mia, which is a sparkling wet effect. All right, let's get to creating some looks, and then we will look at some comparisons towards the end, and then I will give you my final thoughts. All right, so let's get into creating some different looks. I will mention this eye is not going to turn out nearly as well. I mentioned I am dealing with some bad eye allergies, and this eye seems to be taking the brunt of it. I've got like a dry scaly patch over here, so this eye is not going to turn out nearly as cute. I really want to play with this. So I'm going to start with the shade Mesh, and I'm going to use this for my crease shade. And this is a really beautiful crease shade. This is very fitting. I'm honestly so excited about this palette. I know it's a very nude palette, but I'm so excited about it. This is the perfect color story for me personally. I love that it's kind of cool tone, but not nearly as cool as the Glam palette, and it's got a couple warmer options in there as well. I'm just going into Tender now. I like that it has a little bit more warmth to it, but at the same time, it's literally like it says, it is a very nude palette, and I can see myself gravitating toward this one so often. This palette really is my perfect color story, I'm not gonna lie, and the mattes seem to be blending just like her standard, just like her mattes do, just beautifully. Even though they swatched terribly, they are blending beautifully. And this eye I'm actually kind of trying to go a little bit darker just because I want to see what some of the deeper shades can do, but we are going to do 3 looks total today, so we will still cover our bases. Next, I'm going to grab a little bit of Silhouette, which is honestly the only truly deep matte in the palette. We do have some deeper shimmers over here, but this is really the only deep matte we have. And I'm really just using this one on the outer corner. I am being careful not to go too deep. So like I was mentioning, this palette really doesn't have a ton of depth. That does not actually bother me because I don't love super deep eyeshadow looks on myself personally. I think I'm going to grab a brush and I'm going to go in to Muse. Okay, I think this one's going to require a finger, which is fine. Oh, there we go. There we go. That's fine. I want this to be my main lid shade because I think it's so beautiful. That sparkling foil formula, I am telling you, I love that formula so much. It's so beautiful. I love it. Just blending around the edges really quickly. And a little bit more. And then from there, I'm going to try a brush again and I'm going to go in to Filigree. This is another sparkling foil, but something tells me it'll pick up better, and I just want to use a little bit to blend Muse into those outer mattes, and that seems to be working very well. That is what I wanted. I'm going to blend that outer corner a little bit. I would recommend doing the eyes first with this palette, especially if you're going in with those shimmers, just because there is fallout, but they're so beautiful. Okay, so here is look number 1 with mascara. Overall, I think this is so pretty. I love that shine from Muse. I think Muse is beautiful. I do highly recommend doing your eyes first when using this one just because there's a lot of fallout. Okay, let's go into a very simple look over on this side. I'm gonna grab the shade Wit for my crease shade. Okay, so this shade is definitely steering us a lot more peach, which I'm okay with. It's reminding me a little bit of the mini Biba to start. Next, I'm gonna grab Vague, which is also kind of a peachy pink, but deeper. That looks really pretty as well. Okay, so again, with keeping this one simple, I'm gonna grab the shade Mia on a finger, and this is a sparkling wet formula. Ooh, that is pretty. Okay, that is very, very light. It's pretty though. I'm gonna grab another brush. I went a little high. I would definitely say it does give that wet effect though. So again, very, very simple, but I actually think that's quite pretty. I think I'm gonna grab a tiny bit of sheen for the inner corner. I think Mia would honestly be a wonderful inner corner shade, but I really wanted to try it all over the lid with those pinks. I'm going to use sheen for the inner corner of both eyes actually, and that works out pretty well. So I would say definitely Mia is that sparkling wet formula, and I do think it gives that wet effect. I think it's very, very pretty, but I still think the sparkling foiled is so much more shiny. Okay, let me pop on some mascara and I'll be right back, and then we will get into the third look. Alright, so here is look number 2 with mascara. So definitely very, very nude, very, very light. This is a look I would wear daily though. Very simple, very pretty, has that wet sheen to the lids, but at the same time just does not look like too much, and it's just very light. This side is definitely smokier than I typically enjoy, but I think it looks nice as well. So we have two completely different looks going on. We have the more smoky side over here. We've got the very, very nude pinky side over here. I prefer this one, to be honest with you, but I think they're both really, really beautiful. Muse is such a beautiful shimmer shade. I'm absolutely loving it. But with that being said, let's get into look number 3. All right, let's get into the final look. I'm gonna start with the shade Stone. I did manage to take my eyeshadow off without disturbing the mascara, and I figured that would be far less messy. So that's just what we're gonna work with for the last look. So just taking Stone into the crease. I think this is such a beautiful, beautiful crease shade. It's a lot like Mesh, but with a little bit more depth to it. I feel like the range of looks created with this palette, I feel like there might not be a ton of range. So if I'm looking for any critique, that would be it. Okay, I'm going back in to Tender. I'm kind of proud of myself because I just realized that with the 3 different looks we've created today, I've used almost all of these shades in one way or another. I think there's only 2 that I haven't used at all. This eye is definitely a little bit patchy, but like I mentioned, it's a little dry over there. I did pack on some eye cream this morning, but I will just have to keep at it, I think. And hopefully these allergies clear up because I don't feel like dealing with this until October. It is finally time to go into Whisper. I think this shade is so beautiful. So I'm gonna take it on a finger. And this one is going all over the lid. This is supposed to be a regular metallic. It is very, very pretty though. This one's definitely one of the cooler tone shades in the palette. And I think I actually want to take Delilah, which is another one of the sparkling wet formulas. I'm gonna take it on a brush. And that picked up really well with a brush actually. And I wanna use this one to mesh Whisper in with the outer corner. Same thing on the other side. I feel like Whisper was a bit more impactful in the swatch as opposed to on the lid, but it's still very pretty. I can definitely see this being a regular all over the lid shade for me as well. So pretty. Okay, going back into Delilah to mesh those together. Okay, I kind of want to take Mia as my inner corner shade this time and see. Yeah, that's really pretty on the inner corner as well. I still feel like there's something missing, so I think I want to take a little bit of sheen on a finger, and I think I just want to lightly tap that over top of Whisper. So it ends up warming it up a little bit, but it definitely gives it a little bit more shine. All right, so here is the final look, and I love this one. I think it's really pretty. I don't think there was a ton of range between some of the looks I created. There was some, most certainly, but there wasn't the most. I'm okay with that though, because knowing that this is a nude palette, I kind of expected that a lot of things are gonna come out very similar. Overall, the formula in here is gorgeous. I'm loving the new wet formula. I still like the sparkling foiled the very best though. There is just something so incredibly beautiful and sparkly about those. I tried almost every single shade today. I think the only shades that I haven't really tested are Ella and Travertine, but all of the other shades got to be tested out, so I'm really excited about that, and I love everything so far. The first look I created, I liked. I really enjoyed Muse. The second look, that was the 3 shades more pinky tone look, I really liked. I can really see myself wearing that one daily. That's a great daily look for me. This one is also really pretty if I'm looking to go a little bit more deep, but I love this so far. I did want to look at a few other palettes, but the first palette that comes to mind is of course the Ethereal Eyes from Makeup by Mario, because of the color story, but also because he also has a wet effect formula in here. This whole row is his wet effect formula, and it is a really nice formula. While I don't think these are identical, they are very, very close. The Mario definitely has a little bit more warmth to it, a little bit more depth, and the Natasha is definitely a little bit more nude than the Mario, but they're both so beautiful. I think if you missed out on the Mario palette and you're still sad about that, I think this might be a great way to help with that because this palette is close enough. It's got the wet effect formula and it's absolutely stunning. Plus you get more shades, and again, there's a lot of similarities in here. So I definitely think that this would be a great option if you missed out on the Mario palette. I did pull, of course, the Glam palette, and so you can see side by side there are definitely similarities. They definitely have a lot of cool tones to them. The Glam palette has a little bit more gold and it's a little bit cooler. I think maybe these would be great companion palettes. They could definitely be used together. I think that would be really pretty. I could definitely see pairing the two pinky shades I used today and using this one. I think that would be really, really nice. I think that'd be beautiful actually. I kind of would like to pair them and see how they work out. So you do get a little bit more depth with Glam, and of course it is a little bit more cool tone, but I think if you're somebody who really craves that depth, I would go with Glam over I Need a Nude, but both are absolutely stunning. I did also initially think of the Biba palette, which is the all neutrals, but looking at them side by side, Biba only has 3 shimmers and there's a lot more warmth to it. It does have a cool tone row, a neutral row, and a warm row, but it is significantly warmer than the I Need a Nude. I also grabbed my very favorite palette from Natasha, the Mini Biba, because something about it called to me on this one. I think it's these sort of peachy pinks. I think they called to me a little bit. I think these would also be nice companions to each other as well. And the last palette I pulled for comparison's sake is the Stone Cold Fox from ColourPop. So this one is obviously very, very large, but looking at them side by side, there are definitely similarities. I think Stone Cold Fox is slightly cooler again than the Natasha. It has a lot more depth, but the Natasha has all of the special formulas that the ColourPop doesn't. So a little bit similar, not identical, but if you're trying to skip the Natasha palette, then maybe playing with this one is a good idea. So while I do have some very similar palettes in my collection, the Makeup by Mario being the very most similar, I am so excited to have this. I think it's so beautiful. I love the formulas. The only critique is that there isn't really a lot of deeper mattes, but for me, my preference is my personal needs. That one deep matte is definitely sufficient. Overall, I think this is beautiful. This is definitely a little more on the cool tone side. I love cool tones, but at the same time, there is a little bit of warmth to it as opposed to glam, and I love that. With this one, I love the sparkling foiled formula. That has to be my all-time favorite formula, just with that high impact shine. I just think is so stunning. The metallics are beautiful. I want to play with the new wet formula a little bit more. They seem really, really nice. I do like them, but I do want to play with them a little bit more just to get to know the formula a little bit better. They do seem to have like a really pretty wet look on the lids, which I think is really nice and really flattering. The mattes are her usual phenomenal formula as well. I love this palette. I do think this is going to be in a lot of people's top palettes of the year. At the end of the year, I do rank every single eyeshadow palette I tried throughout the year, and I can definitely see this ranking top 5. Overall, I am absolutely loving this. I'm not surprised. I knew I would, but I really, really love this one. So let me know in the comments if you are picking this one up. Have you already? If you haven't, but you're planning on ordering from her website, I just wanted to say once again, you can use my code Christy and that will save you 15% off. But that is it for me today. Thank you so very much for watching. As always, I appreciate it so, so much. If you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. I do upload at least 3 new videos every single week. Thank you again so very much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!